Since its founding in 1901, the National Association of Music Merchants has held many trade shows to help promote the growth of the then fledgling music industry. As electricity became more and more commonplace and gadgets like the record player and the radio became central to the industry, these music trade shows became the de facto venue for consumer electronics makers to show off their new wares. But by the mid-1960s, the consumer electronics market had evolved to the point when they couldn't all fit into a trade show, and many of the gadgets they wanted to show were not music related. As such, the Electronic Industries Association decided that consumer electronics should be given its own venue and not just be a sideshow. And so, in June of 1967, New York hosted the very first Consumer Electronics Show. The Electronic Industries Association didn't initially know if any companies would sign up to present their wares at the inaugural CES. Fortunately, their guess that electronics corporations were ready to have their own space independent of the music trade shows proved correct. Most mega companies of the day, both the established American ones and a few young upstart Japanese ones like Sony, signed on to the new venue. And to everyone's joy, the show completely sold out, showcasing exciting new technologies like color television sets, AM and FM radios, even portable ones, and high-fidelity stereos. CES had become the world's premier expo for consumer electronics. In the following years, the show hosted the announcements of some of the most revolutionary products in modern electronics history. The video cassette recorder was unveiled in 1970. Whereas before, people could only see a movie when it was at the theaters or happened to be on TV, now anyone could watch whatever movie they wanted, whenever they wanted. In 1974, a joint venture by MCA and Philips produced the Laserdisc, showed off at that year's CES. An attempt to marry the versatile power of a VCR tape with the precision of the newfangled digital technology, the Laserdisc sadly never struck a chord with consumers. Then, in 1975, the Consumer Electronics Show welcomed in a whole new category, video games, when Atari announced that it was going to make something called a console so that gamers could play at home. By 1978, the event had grown so huge it couldn't be contained in just one setting. CES split into both winter and summer shows, the former in Las Vegas and the latter in Chicago. The increase in size allowed the show to be the dominant electronics trade show in the world, and through the years remained the venue of choice to announce a company's product. 1981 was a signature year for the reveal of two technologies that continue to define the industry to this day: the camcorder from Kodak and the compact disc from a joint effort by Philips and Sony. 1985 also contained two major events, the first of which has been a perpetual thorn in CES's side ever since. It was the year of the very first Macworld Expo, an event for all things Apple, that occurred at the same exact time as the winter CES, as it would every year after. While Apple's fortunes started to falter in this year, the event would eventually steal away much of CES's thunder with the announcement of products like the iMac. The second major event of '85 was gaming related. Atari, who had unveiled the first console ever at CES in 1975, had gone bankrupt in the mid-'80s, and the video game industry had been declared dead, a fad that had passed. But Japanese company Nintendo decided to try and reinvigorate the market with their own Nintendo Entertainment System, and chose to announce it to the Western world at CES. Gaming in the West continued to grow in popularity after Nintendo's system released, and it was no surprise that the genre became a bigger and bigger segment of CES, most notably hosting the first ever showing of Tetris outside of its native Russia in 1988. By 1994, gaming had become such a huge market that the Interactive Digital Software Association, a consortium of gaming companies, decided to leave CES behind and make their own video game-only convention, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3. In so doing, they would unwittingly change the nature of CES forever. Tune in next time to see how CES would evolve in the digital era.